Practice Cinema here. Now I know this isn't another. Now I know this isn't a horror-related video again, but damn it, I just saw Blade Runner 2049, and I just gotta get all this stuff out there. But as you know, I've already uploaded a review of Blade Runner 2049, a spoiler-filled one. But today I want to do something a little bit more specific. I want to finally answer the decades old question: is Deckard a replicant or a human? And we have two films now, and even though neither one of them outright says whether or not he is or isn't, I think there might be enough here for us to actually find out the answer. So, again, this is going to be spoilers for Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Spoiler warning, this is your one warning. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get right down to it. Now, to establish foundation, the movies of Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 depict a futuristic world where most of the cities and countries have been destroyed due to environmental reasons, and in the cities that are left on Earth are highly advanced, and human civilization has gone off to off-world colonies. But of course, there are still a lot of people on Earth, as you know. But there are also these robots known as replicants that are meant to be pretty much everything that a human is, basically, with enhanced strength and such. But of course, they are, well, we'll get it. They're sort of, outcasts in a way because they've been discriminated against after the blackout of 2022, which is probably caused by replicants that are in an effort to revolt against humankind. Now, in the first movie, Blade Runner, takes place in 2019, and the main replicants that are like the most common are the Nexus 6, which are made as adults, and they can do pretty much most things a human can, if not everything, but they have a lifespan of 4 years in an effort to, sort of check against their power and such. And so Deckard is brought in on investigation, make sure that they are retired or killed. But we also see Rachel, and according to Tyrell, head of the Tyrell Corporation that makes replicants, she is a new experimental replicant where she doesn't know she's a replicant, and she has memories implanted in her to make her believe that she is human. Of course, she later finds out she is a replicant. But there is a connection between Deckard and Rachel, which of course brings up a whole thing about are robots humans, are humans no better than robots and such, but that's not really the topic of this video. So we know from the main antagonist, Ray Bradbury, yeah, I think that's the correct name of him, that even though they're only built to be 4 years, their bodies still age pretty normally for the most part. I mean, Ray knows that right to the exact second when he's about to die, when it's actually upon him, but they seem to age just as much as any other body. And we know based on certain events from Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 that all replicants have the ability to actually have sex. So there's really no question about whether or not they can actually do it. Now, of course, the whole thing about pregnancy is that the woman's body still has to be able to age, to progress like any other body. And we know that replicants, even back in 2019, still age pretty normally, so we can assume that, in theory, that they could have babies, but practically speaking, they thought it was impossible, which, of course, is pretty much the main plot point of Blade Runner 2049, that a child was born from a replicant. Now, sorry. So here comes the main issue, the 4-year lifespan. So back in 2019, replicants have a 4-year lifespan, and according to a confrontation between Tyrell and the main antagonist, that they haven't been able to actually figure out a way to go beyond the 4-year lifespan. Now, of course, this sort of gets contradictory because it's never explicitly said whether or not Rachel actually still has the 4-year lifespan. Now, by the time Blade Runner 2049 comes along, we learn that she died in childbirth in the year 2021. Now, if we assume that Rachel was made in the year 2019, that's still within her 4-year lifespan. So, that really doesn't give us a clear answer of whether or not she actually still has the 4-year limit. But if she didn't have the 4-year limit, this would be Tyrell sort of basically lying towards Ray, and which means that Deckard, if he was the same kind of replicant as Rachel, a replicant that has implanted memories, and he didn't have a 4-year lifespan, then that would mean that he still technically could be a replicant. But we don't know for sure whether or not the 4-year lifespan still applied to Rachel, so we don't know if it would apply to Deckard if he was in fact a replicant. Now of course, the main question, of course, like, yeah, we can figure out that female replicants can still grow like any other normal human woman, so in theory, pregnancy would still be possible, but we're still not exactly sure whether male replicants can actually produce sperm, but I think it's safe to say that they probably could, given that the Nexus 9s in Blade Runner 2049 have been given some new upgrades, including being more obedient to humankind. Now, of course, here comes the practicality of whether or not Deckard is a replicant. Because if Deckard was a replicant back in the original, that means a lot of people were in on the fact of this, including the Tyrell Corporation, mainly just Tyrell, but also basically all of the LAPD, or at least a few of them. So that's where it seems a little bit like inconvenient. But we do know that Deckard has a dream in Blade Runner where he sees a unicorn, and at the end of the movie he gets an origami from one of the other Blade Runners that is in the form of a unicorn. And this origami from one of the Blade Runners named Gaff does make an appearance in Blade Runner 2049, but he's pretty old, probably older than Deckard ever was, and there is a chance that he could be a little bit senile, but from the way he describes it, it seems like he was with Deckard for a long time, like way past 4 years. However, Deckard, as we see describe things in the first Blade Runner movie, makes it seem like he never really met Gaff until the events of the movie, and saying he only really saw him here and there. So we really don't have a lot of information to go off on how long Deckard was for sure with the LAPD. So really, we have a lot of questions here. Like we can only assume that male replicants can produce sperm. We pretty much know for sure that female replicants, even back in 2019, still age properly like normal humans. And really the biggest obstacle is whether or not Rachel had the 4-year lifespan. Because if she did, then, well, we couldn't really know for sure because she died like 2 years afterwards, which is still within her 4-year limit if we are to assume she was built in 2019. Now, we do get some information, some little insight from Wallace in 2049, and it makes it seem like that Deckard was built specifically for the purpose of falling in love with Rachel, but then he ends that if you were designed that way. So right there, it seems like Wallace may know that he is a human, Or there's the more likely option where he doesn't really care whether or not he is. Now, Deckard, of course, believes himself to be human, but as we know from Blade Runner, Rachel didn't really know at first that she was a replicant until it was pointed out by Deckard. So it's very confusing whether or not he is. Now, we could take a look into the novel that the first Blade Runner movie was based off of, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And there was an instant in the book where Deckard begins questioning whether or not he is a human replicant based on how the LAPD was handling him and like treating him. But we figured out that was just an entire, basically, prank by Replicant. So in that book, Deckard isn't a replicant. So if we're so even though the first Blade Runner movie isn't a direct adaptation of The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, we do know it's inspired by it. Now, Harrison Ford, who plays Deckard, says that he is human. Ridley Scott, who actually directed the first film, said that he's a replicant. The only one that actually seems to have a firm decision is by Jared Leto, and he says he's taking that to his grave. So, thanks, Jared Leto, you asshole. Shut up, Quadachi, I'm trying to think. Really? The main question is, can male replicants produce sperm? And from the way that, hold on, there might be something here. In Blade Runner 2049, we come across a resistance group of replicants, and they say that now that they know that a female replicant can actually give birth, that means that they are the masters of their own destiny, which leads the audience to believe that these replicants believe that they can make their own, they can make more replicants by themselves in the intercourse way, which seems to think that they can in fact produce sperm on their own. That belief coupled with the fact that female replicants can actually give birth, there's still too many questions and information to take in that it's really hard to know for sure. But if you were to ask me, I'm going to have to go with the fact that Deckard is human. I mean, it's the most logical explanation. I mean, we have to go with. I mean, if we look back at the first movie, Tyrell tells the villain of that movie that they haven't been able to figure out how to make replicants that have an open lifespan, which is past 4 years. And if Rachel didn't have a 4-year lifespan, he would have told the antagonist that they may be onto something that would have saved his life. And it makes no sense on Tyrell's part to keep that information from his own kind, from the antagonist Ray. So Ray, Roy, whatever. The point is, it seems most likely that Rachel did in fact have a 4-year lifespan. She just died before that 4-year lifespan was reached its end. So with that taken into consideration, coupled with the fact that it was earlier revealed that in between the events of Blade Runner in 2049, they did figure out a way for an open lifespan, officially. So we're going to go with the assumption that they didn't have open lifespans back in 2019, so that means Deckard is indeed human. So, okay, long story short, they didn't find a way for replicants to have an open lifespan until after the events of the first movie back in 2019. which means that Deckard is indeed most likely human, and or is human. Yes, he is human. I mean, I know there's going to be some talk about the unicorn origami, but that could be just a symbol for the odd and unique relationship that Deckard and Rachel share. It doesn't really have to be tied directly to, you know, Deckard. In fact, the unicorn in the dream just could be Deckard going after a sort of fantasy, which is a happy, loving life with something that isn't exactly human. So, so my answer, Deckard is human. That is my final answer. Deckard is indeed human. But what do you guys think? Comment down below, like, subscribe, share. See you next time.